So we're back again to update you on the process with the rocky outcroppings, and joined by John here, who's helping us with the next steps. So what have you been doing since I came over with the bases?
Well, what we did is the rocks were on the bases. We primed them up black. It was a good color for rocks. And then we put the slop all over them, which is a mixture of paint and sand. It's kind of a quick and dirty way to texture stuff. So we kind of really just gooped it all over the bases, and now we're waiting for them to dry. After it's dry, we'll dry brush paint on it to give it some color and continue on. Yep.
And we did have a couple problems so far, which is that the rocks aren't sticking so well to the bases. I'd used the hot glue gun to get them on there. A couple have broken off.
Right. So we've had, I think, two problems here, and this is our first time using cast pieces like this, so this is a learning experience. One problem: the hot glue dries too quickly, so it doesn't bond particularly well to the plaster. So we've tried some super glue, which is a little runnier, and a two-part epoxy, which sets up slower, which should have more time to get into the porous plaster and bond really well. And the other problem is, I think you can see it in one of these, like right here. That rock is not flush to the surface of the base.
Yep.
Well, that's because there's a kind of a bubble underneath it, and if you put any direct pressure on that side of the rock, I think it's going to break. So we need to sand them flat next time so that they bond completely to the piece, and so the hardboard's providing support to the rock. Hey, we got a plane going overhead. All right.
Yep. So next up is going to be to dry brush the heck out of these things.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right,
and
we'll check.
No more break.
Yep. Back now at my house, and I'm going to show you what we've been doing on the rocks. After the last video, John and I went through and we started to dry brush the rocks themselves and the bases, and that's really all it is. Lots and lots of dry brushing. So if you take a look, basically we did two different colors for the rocks. Most of them are just a regular gray, so we have some basic acrylic paints that you get at the craft store real cheap, and we dry brush for the gray, like a dark gray, a light gray, and then white on the very highest points. And then the other rocks are red, and so those were a couple more steps, so we don't have as many of those. But basically that is like a burnt umber that you cover the black with for the most part, and then a dry brush of burnt sienna, another dry brush of this color here is red oxide, and then I mixed the red oxide with unbleached titanium. These are all Liquitex colors, but the unbleached titanium is basically bleached bone. And the bases of the rocky outcroppings themselves, you saw we applied the slop and it had that color already in it, the brown, and then so we dry brushed what is, basically the equivalent of snakebite leather, and then a dry brush of what is basically the equivalent of bleached bone over the top. So I've got 16 of these, and they're all set and ready to be flocked. So first you're going to put like the grass down, and so to do that I'm going to be sprinkling the grass on top. These are from Woodland Scenic Shakers, and then spraying glue over them to affix it. So that's the mixture of glue and water we were talking about before, about 12 parts water to 1 part glue. And after that dries, then we're going to go ahead and add some of the lichen and the clump foliage and get the real nice finished effect. So follow along. And we're back. And so now what I'm going to talk about is how I applied the clump foliage and the lichen and the other extra basic materials to the bases of the rocky outcroppings using a hot glue gun. So I'm going to show you how I did that with this piece right here, which is going to be a small field. So I've got my hot glue gun and it's ready to go. You can probably see there's already strings of glue coming off of it. It's kind of messy to work with. And I've got two types of clump foliage here. This one, Woodland Scenic's light green, and another one, medium green. And so what you do is you just reach into the bag and grab a decent sized clump. And in this case on my field, I actually want them to all be sort of about the same size. So pull a little off. And about this much. I'm going to hold it in my hand, and apply a dab of hot glue to it. So squeeze to get some hot glue to come out, and then you spin it, you twirl it to remove the string. So you don't want that dangling off, getting all over the place. And then you find where you want to put it and you press it down. When you press it down, you want to make sure that you're not sticking your finger into it, because that will then attach to your finger. It's very hot, and you'll pull away and a big string will come out. It doesn't look too nice. So I'm going to go through and do these all on this field piece here. You can maybe see how there's rivets and it's lined up like a farm, I guess. And then I'm going to go and show you the rocky outcroppings. I applied clump foliage to all of them and the lichen. The lichen works a little bit differently. It's really thin, so if you tried to apply it directly onto the lichen and then press it down, it would bubble right through the lichen onto your hands and make quite a mess. So instead, you just apply the hot glue directly to the base in like a big sort of blob. Do the same thing where you twirl and then you put it on top, press it down gently. So once these are set, they're not necessarily 100% sturdy, which is why we're going to go out and do a seal coat with the water and glue mixture. So I'm going to finish up this field, and then I will catch you outside with the rocky outcroppings. Alright, so on to the final step in the process. I've got this big sprayer here. This is not Roundup, but it's a mixture of glue and water, like I was saying, 12 parts water to 1 part glue. And I'm literally going to soak these rocky outcroppings and their bases so that it really seals down the flock and all the different brush. You can see we've got like the lichen mixed with the clump foliage and stuff. I think it looks really nice. And if you don't do this step, and I'm probably going to end up doing 2 coats, so do one, let it dry, and then do another in 5 or 6 hours. If you don't do the 2 coats, it's going to be really easy for this stuff to rip off. So literally, I'm just going to start washing it down. And I got an old cardboard box out here, so I'm not putting this right onto the lawn. And you're going to see this is really wet. And it's going to puddle, but that's okay. Just what it needs. So there you have it. I'm gonna let this dry, and hopefully that'll protect these nice. Do a second coat, and then these are ready to go on the tabletop. So thanks for watching. Hopefully, if you've been following along, you now know how to make some rocky outcroppings of your own, or perhaps you're at least excited to see these on the table if you're coming to one of our events. So thanks for watching again, and take care.